There we go. Let's go.
Perhaps you've seen it. Maybe in a dream.
I like this review a lot. Okay, let's see it.
Dark Souls 2 is a game that can be defined with a single word. Difficulty. Dark Souls 2, all of the Souls titles to be specific, are much more than me.
What do you mean by difficulty? I just do tried every boss I fought. But Dark Souls bosses are not that difficult. The difficulty comes from its obnoxious, annoying level design.
They offer a dark, fantastical world that perpetually meters on the fringe of the unknown, teasing answers that never become anything more than passing folklore, almost illusory in their transience. They offer a deep, rich combat system that utilises an emphasis on player action and positioning, and
Oh, have you seen the lore video about this game? Dark Souls 2 lore is pretty good. The Vendrick guy is such a pro
set
gamer
actions when done so intelligent.
in this game. He literally made the whole game. Our whole journey is just to fulfill King Vendrick's middle finger to his wife.
And
Pretty
more
much.
importantly, with awareness of everything happening around them.
That guy is such a
All
pro
of these
gamer
qualities are
move.
framed with a unique yet familiar RPG foundation that allows creativity and character progression to reward any kind of player preference. Lastly, they have an articulate, ever-weaving level design that marries elegantly with traps, environmental hazards, and carefully planned out enemy placements. It's a cocktail of intrigue, enjoyment, and the looming dread of death is around every corner. My personal experience with Dark Souls 2 was a lot like a bittersweet romance. We spent a haze-filled few months exploring each other with the attentive, affectionate blindness of smitten
More like a
lovers.
toxic relationship.
It was a whirlwind, it was resplendent, but it all, too swiftly, ended. The mask slipped, the facade crumbled to reveal the rot beneath, and the small serpentine cracks grew in size until all that was once saccharine enjoyment gave way to a frustrating bitterness. And even then, in the separation and ultimate avoidance of the game for the rest of the year, I would still sing its praises in the face of my sour heart. Then they revealed Scholar of the First Sin, and then I played it. On the Xbox One, Scholar of the
See? He said the game was good because he played the vanilla one. See? Once again, vanilla is way better in this, in terms of level design than Gang Squad. Vanilla also has a Gang Squad, but it's way lesser and not
First Sin runs
toxic.
at an improved 60 frames per second, all the time shimmering with the rewards of higher resolutions and even sweeter loading times. It also
You say
benefits
so
from an
much,
expanded
sir.
online
Okay.
suite courtesy of the next generation's horsepower, allowing more friends or foes in your world. A welcome addition for those craving more traffic, or the chaos of the multiple phantoms, be they sinister or saintly. Performance-wise, Scholar may be the most optimised version of a Souls game I've ever played, with the frame rate only faltering on rare occasions and the lighting rig receiving a large overhaul to match the promotional footage promises of glamour, although arguably making some areas of the game look bleached and funky in contrast. This is the true victory with this remastering, and the main draw to the game is attention, as everything else is almost universally worse than the vanilla Dark Souls 2 that shipped a year previously. But before I write the indictment of a grotesque failing in game design, there exist qualities that should be aired. Key areas within Drangleic have been treated to shortcuts that actually streamline certain questionable sequences and enrich the flow of the levels tremendously. No Man's Wharf now has an interconnecting bridge that allows for a full circle through the level, allowing a more intuitive path to backtrack. A very important upgrade component has now been relocated much earlier in the adventure, allowing greater levels of character and weapon utility, and serves as probably the largest change in Scholar due to the upgrade potential affecting every aspect of the game's new balance. The King's Doors also open autonomously now, after accruing the King's Ring, a slight change that alleviates seconds of pedantry, but is needless to say a welcome addition. And it is here where the rest of Scholar of the First Sin gracelessly collapses at the first hurdle, breaks both
I think the reason why they put that bridge as a shortcut because the Gang Squad was so obnoxious. So I thought they know they fucked it up that level so hard. So in order to make it easier to run back to the boss fight, they just put the bridge in between. That's what happened. It's just a scuffed band-aid to fix the dog shit mechanic they come up with that level
its
design.
legs and receives the
You know?
merciful kindness of a shotgun blast, because the rest of the game and the changes therein deserve to be shot.
It's just disgusting how many mobs just perma aggro you in that game. Like you can effectively fight if you are unlucky, fight 15 mobs at the same time that can each two-shot you.
Ago, in a
You know?
walled-off land far to the north.
It only takes one a few minutes to spot the first curiosity. A petrified figure in Things Betwixt blocking the entrance to a training area. Fast forward to a fragrant branch remedy, only to discover the obstacle was denying absolutely nothing of value or worth. A token notion that translates to new additions to the area. The Pursuer, a character that got the rough end of the stick in vanilla game, has now been given a new lease of life. To show up in a terrible terrain close to the gender-switching cascade between the compulsively hugging ogres. Can you think of a more asinine place to put a future boss? Because I can't. And what is the player rewarded with after slaying such an adversary in said loathsome conditions? Well, you get a Twinkling Titanite that you won't use for another 10 hours due to needing a handful of them to upgrade anything. What a truly edifying discovery, and a fix players were devoutly wishing for. Don't fix the shitty hit detection, or the atrocious hurt boxes, or the swimmingly loose controls, the amazingly worthless poise system that actually doesn't even exist, the input drops, the foolhardy ideas of statistics dictating role effectiveness, the most loved inclusion of soul memory. Oh no, those are perfectly fine, folks, because now we have a recycled boss enemy that drops a fucking Twinkling Titanite. An enemy who actually appears more frequently in the game now, but is constantly undermined by the new NPC invader, the Forlorn, who hunts the player throughout Drangleic, which begs the question, wasn't that what the Pursuer was supposed to do? Instead we have some skinny red armoured Depeche Mode dude cuckolding one of the most interesting looking humanoid bosses in the game, rather than utilising him and his awesome crow chauffeur. It didn't bode well for the rest of the game, and Hyde's Tower of Flame solidified my trepidations. An area that once rewarded the bold who feared not the intimidating armoured golems, as they articulated forward slow.
Yeah, this guy will activate if you kill the Dragon Raider, and then they will hit you with their jank bullshit. Like he started in this bonfire, right? That guy that's sitting over there will chase you till you run to Orenstein. Like fuck that! This area is so
rewarded
bullshit.
The bold who
like
feared not
fuck
the
off.
intimidating armor.
You get completely fucked over because if you go and kill the Dragon Raider, you are fucked if you try to run back to the Orenstein.
As they articulated,
you know, and then here's the good part.
Area that once rewarded the bold who feared not the intimidating armored golems, as they.
In the base game, there is a fucker over there that doesn't even exist, but they thought it was a good idea to put a freaking dragon there that breathes fire while you have 10 mobs just chasing throughout the whole game, and then it breathes fire in front of you. You dodge roll, but you scuff the dodge roll doesn't have enough iframe, so you get hit and then knocked down. And when you are knocked down, the mobs just chasing you are behind you, and then they can catch up to you. And then you have to run around the dragon while it's stomping the ground, trying to hit that stupid thing, while these mobs just catch up to you, wailing at you at the same time. What a fun experience that one was.
Articulated forward slowly.
That's exactly what happened to me, because I made a big mistake of doing the game right and then killing the Dragon Raider boss. And then these fuckers will just activate and then perma-aggro you.
With weapons the size of farmyard animals.
Like, why? It feels like I'm playing a new game plus 10, dude.
A zone that
when I'm playing a base game.
Through, and after a quick Dragon Rider humiliation would open up the meat of the game. Well, you can still do that, but Hyde got a lot more crowded.
Let me show you my gameplay. I'm gonna show it to you. Like, the misery I just went through, it should be shown. I don't know which part it is, but I forgot. Let me check. It was such a bullshit run back, dude. I hated that. Where was it? Never mind, I can't find it. Maybe I'll find it later.
and even
Like, it
less
should be in
interesting.
my wars. It was not a fun experience.
Remember how
dude.
Hyde didn't actually have any Hyde Knights? Well, it does now, and it has them in abundance. They respawn too, but it's cool because they also dumped a dragon on the platform before Ornstein, and that makes everything okay. I would dare anyone to attempt to run to Ornstein without killing anything. A feat that I can do effortlessly in vanilla now becomes a grueling gauntlet that is as punishing as it is Scooby-Doo ridiculous. The dragon preemptively shares gifts of flame.
Right there, look at this. This is exactly my experience for the 4-hour
A
gameplay.
feat that I can do
You're running past the
effortlessly in
mob.
vanilla now becomes
Watch
a
this.
grueling
There is the
gauntlet that is as
invasion.
punishing as it is Scooby-Doo
Got hit, and then the dragon is already
ridiculous.
freaking breathing his
Dragon
fire on
preemptively
you.
shares gifts of flames to the players as
He couldn't dodge it all.
they approach.
And then the
And if
mobs
the
just
blaze
to
doesn't
catch up
knock
to
you off the
him.
precarious
Oh,
walkways,
he's just dead.
several
Never
enemies
mind. Like,
the
look at
players
that.
as they
Behind
approach.
him,
And
like
if the blaze
exactly
doesn't
like you
knock you
said.
off the precarious walkways,
they're already caught up to you. And then you run around circles while the dragon is stomping, and while these guys with their scuffed moves are
several
wailing
enemies
on you.
chasing you.
Not to mention, these pieces of shit is tanky as fuck. Like, why these guys
will
are
happily oblige
tanky?
you off wish for free fall.
They are tanky as shit. They don't poison poke that easily. They just perma aggro you. Their hit will basically can two-shot you. Like, what? Why? Why do you make a game like this? What is this?
But it's okay. You can simply hide behind a tower until the flaming deluge ceases, and then the dragon
Oh,
won't
you
know
can
what
carry
hit
them
you.
easily.
Only the
That's
fire
good,
goes
yeah.
through the geometry, and there goes half your HP, and you just flew off the world. So there goes the other half. Are you having fun yet? This is difficulty. This is challenge. This is the challenge these games are known for. Tests of patience and skill that reward perseverance and repeated lessons learned through failure with the unbridled elation of victory. But this isn't that. This is lazy. This is uninspired bullshit, and this isn't what Soul games are about, at all. They have never been designed in such a way. Every enemy was meticulously placed to achieve a purpose and force the player to act in a very specific way, from the misanthropic placement of the Anna Orlando archers to the lucrative and elusive crystal lizards. They weren't dashed about enthusiastically like seasoning in a stew, left to fall and pool wherever. It is almost childish in its simplicity. If we stick a dozen enemies every so often, it will make the path more difficult. And in one hand,
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, a 3-year-old can come up with that idea. Like, put 2 Orenstein in that area, and then it will be very difficult, and then we call your game even harder, you know? Like, no. Like, instead of that, what do you call it? The knights, the sleeping knights, they should put smolder demons there. You know? The smolder demon would be difficult. Like, instead of those knights, there should be 5 smolder demons that just chasing you. And then the dragon should be still there. And then increase the dragon's HP by 2-fold. And then while the smolder demon is attacking you, you have to kill the
it's
dragon.
hard to argue with that logic, but that does not make
Yeah.
it good design. It does nothing to enhance the challenge, and most importantly, it isn't fun. Difficulty is facing down the club-wielding giants of the Valley of Defilement on a tiny plot of land.
The sheer fact that if you can AoE damage the mobs, so if you are hitting a first mob with a sweep attack, the second mob that's taking the damage will take only 75% of the damage. The third mob only takes 50% of the damage. That's so fucking AIDS. So you have gang squad, but the gang squad don't take the same damage? My
Completely
God,
surrounded by
like
poison,
why?
knowing that you have to evade the skull-crushing blow careering towards you, but
Valley
also
of
knowing
the-
you are
Yup.
one misplaced dodge away from landing in the swamp and losing the advantage of mobility. That is a challenge. A dance of awareness, reflex, and sheer survival. Now imagine if you were fighting 7 of those creatures in the same conditions, and that is what Scholar of the First Sin idea of difficulty is, and it couldn't be more wrong. The irony here is the boss this particular unpleasant gauntlet is protecting is rather pointless, and the fight itself is underwhelmingly trivial when juxtaposed with the living nightmare lurking outside its door. Underwhelming
Wait,
gauntlet
that's
is
a cool armor.
protecting
Where do they get that?
is rather pointless, and the fight itself is
Yeah, that looks
overwhelmingly trivial
badass.
when juxtaposed with the living nightmare lurking outside its door. It is this dichotomy that makes the difficulty and overall balance of Scholar even more offensive in its brutish lack of subtlety. When the promotional trailer mentioned replacing enemies, I thought of all kinds of assortments of...
Oh yeah, the average Dark Souls experience right there.
When the promotional trailer mentioned replacing enemies, I
This is
thought
what happened to me. Right there. You see this? How many pieces of shits there? Yeah. The problem is they will just jump at you at the same time and then they can
all
two-shot
kind
you.
of assortments of terrors that lay in wait for my intrepid hero, but my imagination never did so in such quantities, because that is where the design fails and only chaos is left. This realization is a thought that never occurred to the people designing these new placements, and the rest of the game suffers due to this. Iconic fights on the rooftop piazza with the pursuer now sport superfluous lackey enemies that spoil the contest entirely. The tree plateau where the first Hide Knight resided had a gracefulness to it, and it had a few immediate threats, a few hidden threats pretending to be dead, and a well-placed archer to ruin all hope of complete control. It was a great eye for
This looks so unrealistic.
components
Look at
rife
this.
within the Souls
This looks
games.
so lame. What is
It played
this?
on the player's expectations, and it allowed a few wrong choices in battle to escalate quickly into a swift death. Now, there's just 20 dudes jump attacking you the instant you climb the ladder, and the Hide Knight is nowhere to be seen. The mystique is shattered, the subtlety sodden, and the golden feculence further agitates the ever-growing injury. And the whole game is like this. Pick an area, and then contemplate the enemy placements, and if they were choice, intelligent, and followed a path of reasoning, then compare them to the changes made by Scholar. Were they for the better? Were they enriching what made them great in the first place, if they were even worthy to begin with? The answer is almost unequivocally no. I can think of one area that struck out as an interesting change, and it transpires within the Skeleton Lord boss fight. An encounter previously ripe with bone wheel skeletons, a rather infamous killer of Dark Souls players, was now reduced to 2 or 3, and instead the normal mob of skeletons had increased in number. This lent credence to the notion that the Lords rule skeletons, and here was a sign of their dominion, as
I mean, they didn't really change much on that one. They just went for a gang squad route. You know, oh, remove the 2 bone wheels, that's problem? Yeah, never mind. Put 20 bitches more. Oh, we got this. Boss balance.
the room became
We done
seen
it,
ripped
boys.
directly from Jason and the Argonauts. There may have been other such
Yeah.
occasions throughout Scholar, and it saddens me that they don't jump to mind, but that is part due to just how many negative experiences litter the areas of Drangleic I used to enjoy. And frustration is the flavour of almost all the changes in Scholar, be it the inclusion of a petrified man denying the entrance to a much-needed bonfire
Yeah,
in
that's the
Black
armor I
Gulch
was
Scholar,
using.
be it the
Exactly
inclusion
this
of a
build.
petrified man
Like the knight with the scuffed
Denying the
shield and
entrance
then the shitty sword. Pretty much that's my build
to a
right there.
much-needed bonfire in the Black Gulch, all paths through the Undead Crypt now littered with
This area is stupid.
durability
Yeah, if you have the smoke
ruining
stick, you are
stones that
fucked.
clip and block your path, to a copious amount of NPC invasions in areas that already have enough heavy-handed enemies to fill the vaults of the Nexus.
Yeah.
Monsters encountered once in the previous versions now appear out of suit and further help obfuscate. Did you enjoy the ghost enemies in the woods that you couldn't lock onto? Now they populate all the areas the Ferosan Lions used to. So have fun with that shitfest. A scatological episode that repeats itself throughout.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid. Like when I saw these guys, I tried to lock onto them, and then you can't lock onto them. Like why? Who thought that was a fun idea? Shit, dumb
repeats
shit.
and repeats and repeats. But it feels at times like a development team that struggled to fully grasp the ethos
Like you can clearly see the bitch. Why can't I just lock
of
onto this?
Miyazaki's legacy to begin with, has been allowed the time to disillusion the design direction even further to the point where it barely retains the fundamentals that makes
This guy is the most
time to
fun fight in the
disillusion the
game.
design direction even further
This guy is the most fun. Straight up,
to the
best
point where
boss
it
in the
barely
game.
retains the fundamentals that makes a Souls game. A direction that prefers cumbersome rows of enemies over dynamic combinations, and the misguided addition of
And then this one is
unnecessary
quite
elements
a
in the
cool.
name of difficulty they artificially inflate. Hell, they didn't even fix a well-known issue with equipment degradation when the game runs at 60 frames per second, but they had time to add 50 dragon dudes on the ascent to the ancient dragon because the player's asshole just wasn't quite wide enough. Prison romanticism aside, there are some good ideas here, in spite of my venomous record, and with a more disciplined hand, they could have made the Dark Souls 2 that a lot of people really wanted and were unfortunately denied. As it stands, They've made a version of the game that some people will enjoy and others will despise, a sentiment that could be used for all the Souls games, but one that I would argue would be grossly misunderstood when applied here. As the things people will lament about Scholar of the First Sin are things that have never been a staple part of Souls games, and if they had been when I first played them, I would have never played them again. From have done an amazing thing with Scholar. They have fashioned a diagram of exactly how not to make a Souls game, and through overzealous, short-sighted tinkering, they have sacked what little elegance Dark Souls 2 had. The Remnants are a game that looks and acts a lot like Dark Souls 2, but loses its way through an obsession with the deluded notion that filling a corridor with enemies somehow translates to challenge, and high-resolution makeup with a 60 frames per second short skirt will stir the loins of a gamer, blinding them to the glaring flaws Scholar of the First Sin simply failed to address. I cannot in good conscience recommend this game on the next generation hardware, as it is an inferior build of Dark Souls 2. If you want 60 frames per second, you already have it on PC. If you only have the Xbox 360 or the PS3 versions, sleep soundly with the knowledge that you spared yourself the indignation of a wound where your love for Dark Souls 2 once was, and an indulgent, needless torrent of piss down your face.
Pretty much. That's how it feels like. The freaking Scholar Edition is the most obnoxious shit in the whole universe. Like, Jesus. It was
ranking every
just...
Souls game.
It's just bad. Hmm. Alright. I think it's time for some video game. I'm getting tired of talking. I've been talking for the 2 hours. We need a break. I like to relax. Let's see the comment section. Majestic use of English language.